See if assignments last meeting. That was probably it. Man, she's like, yeah, so. Do we have a Wi-Fi password right here?
We do. It's access now, the A is capitalized, and the N is capitalized. And there's 2 exclamation points. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hmm.
And there you go.
We just coming off the shift or?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, we didn't. No, I flew the graveyard on Christmas Eve. To give Isaiah and Kayla a chance to be home with their kids, because they're people that work our graveyards. Yeah, and then I pulled a couple of 13-hour days last week. It was nice to be super busy. I just I love it. I'm like, it's wheeling deal, let's, get people rooms and
Other instance.
it makes good prices and big smiles. Yeah, try that, And how was your New Year's?
It was good.
Did you go out?
Just local, it was put home well before the ball dropped in Denver.
Yeah. I was snuggled in bed,
Yeah.
but listen to the kids count when the ball dropped. So I gave it a shout out, but that was all I needed to do. Kevin, did you go out?
Did I go? I worked, but it was glamorous because it was a party area.
Was that with Veronica last? I thought that's where those pictures were from.
And so,
Yeah, I saw you actually in some of those pictures.
yeah, so it was work related,
There you
but it
go.
was easy work that.
Yeah. Hey, Gary. Pretty good, and yourself? Did you have a nice stay?
Yes.
Good. Lordy, lordy. Yeah, those young people, and not all of them were young, it's just like, say yes. Say yes, let's get you her keys. Mitch and Ariel went to the room until like after 5:30. Cause they're all like, oh, it's an early check-in. I'm like, it's Terry's friend. Come on. So,
I think they might have thought checking was early for in the morning, I don't know.
all he did was pick up the keys. Yeah, so that was not a big deal at all. They just, I think it comes with age, it was a little bit more relaxed about it. Whatever.
We gave you a good review.
Oh, well, thank you so much.
New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year.
Did you have a good New Year's?
Yeah.
Good deal?
Yeah.
Is this historic wallpaper in here?
I don't know if it's historic, but it's old.
It's, I'm guessing from the 1970s.
Oh,
Yeah.
Me too.
We got a little older on our silver plume town hall.
Oh, yeah, I like the paper up there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I don't know my old wallpaper enough to know how old this would be.
This, because it has sort of that sheen, it's kind of like that. There was a real interest in oil wallpaper
Yeah.
in the 1970s.
Mhm. Yeah, to go with your shag carpet.
Oh my God, that's how I grew up in Colorado.
Yeah.
Wallpaper shake.
It wasn't that long ago that I took some Chad Tucky back home. Like, yeah, that's original.
Oh. Gary. Would you mind scooching down a little bit? Thank you. Like I said, the computer right here. How are you doing? You want me to come right in and say, move over?
This is the.
I had to like ease down the hill very carefully. Like there's like little shuffle.
Penguin walk.
Flat, I was like,
You walk, yeah.
Future.
I don't mind walking. Like I feel so silly.
Oh my goodness.
Like I drive from my old house all the time, but you know, I feel like I'm being lazy to run from here. First time,
Not in wind like this.
I drive.
I walked the kids to school and I was like, now I can get my car on time. No, boy. Good morning, John. How are you?
But you live far away.
I know,
Yeah.
it's fine. What did someone say our neighborhood was called the other night? It was at your table. Sogo? Susan had said that.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
Yeah, she's like, you live in Sogo. Thank you, Jen. How are you?
You might have a couple of, yeah.
Okay.
Technically, you're in Soji, not no-go or Sogo, Soji.
Soji,
Georgetown, GEO.
Soji. Whatever it is, ridiculous.
No, it's like.
Yeah. Everybody wants to go somewhere where the roads are all dirt and you don't live in food or no handle liberty.
Dirt roads are great and they're good for the environment, they're good for percolation, we cover river, good percolation, they create a chance.
Oh.
Things like that.
Wow.
Well, dirt roads are permeable surfaces. You want pervious pavement if you can have dirt roads, but. One of the things of suburbia and citifying was putting in concrete and asphalt roads, which sort of created heat sinks and then destroyed the natural flow of water, which is why you end up with these bizarre flooding patterns that happen. We sort of did that when we did Guanella Pass and Rose Street in that area, and we started flooding out people's yards,
Interesting.
like Deirdre and Paul.
Makes sense, just never thought about it.
No, never, yeah. Because you think, well, this is dusty and this is old fashioned.
Has anyone heard from Jen Jordan?
She's downstairs.
Oh, okay.
I still want to chat with
Oh, okay.
without like
Then I shall wait.
and you probably don't need it at all, but it would help. I'm working on itineraries and packages. And I would love to get you involved with that.
Yeah, for
But I
sure.
know you're slammed all the time.
You know, they're finally figuring out that I can be useful at the hotel besides on the front desk,
Okay,
so I could have more time,
okay.
just
So
hence here I am.
then I'll pick you up. I'll back you.
Yeah, but yeah, give me a call when you got a pocket. I usually work Sunday through Thursday.
Is that it? Okay,
Yeah.
fabulous. I appreciate that.
For sure.
I'll probably go ahead and call it.
That would be soapbox for today. That'll be my only one.
Okay.
That's not true. We're about to start a meeting. Oh, Fred, where's Fred? Somewhere fast. We go to Laura.
Johnson.
It's good.
I thought I got you.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
See the shop?
No, we trying to get the kids excited.
I will.
Just kidding.
What's that?
Going to Dead and Co this summer. They're finally getting on that band.
Yeah.
I'm gonna call it, you're totally fine, it's not a big deal, we are waiting on one member, but I'm gonna call the order. It's 8:02 a.m. on Wednesday, January 4th, and I call this meeting of the Georgetown Business Promotions Commission to order. May we have a roll call, please?
Amanda Cooper.
Here.
Jonathan Dow.
Here.
Kevin Kuhar.
President.
Paul Boat.
Here,
Andrew Smith.
Here.
And Jenny Haynes.
Here.
Awesome. Are there any adjustments to the agenda with like motion for approval? Okay, can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
And a second,
I'll second.
all in favor?
I,
Agenda is approved. Audience business, so for the record, if you could please state your name
Lisa Ray, oh, yeah.
and then what business you're with.
Lisa Ray, the microtel.
Awesome. What brings you to us this morning, Lisa?
Just, we want to be involved in, Georgetown and, be a presence and, help where we can and be a asset to the community.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being here today. We're glad to have you. Sorry, you can come around. I wanted to start because I have a hard 10 o'clock and I knew you were downstairs, so.
Hello, Printer. Malfunction.
It's all good. Good morning. Good morning. How are you? Awesome. Well, thank you for being here today. So gonna see what we do here at Business Promotion. Very exciting, fun group of people. I can say so myself.
I think I know everyone's stuff.
With you too.
Jen, I think I talked to you on the phone. I work down at the microtel. Yeah. Okay. For sure.
Alrighty. Welcome to business owners. Are there any new operations, managers, businesses to acknowledge this morning that I may not be aware of?
The hotel, Shadow County. They're not here, but
Yes,
they sold and they have a new owner, and
Yes.
new concept and all that.
that's, and I'm kind of interested in how that's gonna play out,
Yeah.
but I'm very happy for Marie Plot. She worked really hard at that for a long time, so.
And what about Chifu? Was that?
Thank you. I'm sorry, like, yes, I was
Well, and
like,
that's not from, I talked to Steve after I saw him yesterday. He's an employee of Winella Pass, so it's not a new business. No, I mean, yeah, I guess it's a new business, but it's under, so yeah.
When I asked him about it,
Concept.
from his standpoint, he said he would like to, he will come and talk about the concept. Maybe not today, but at some point, but not as a new business,
Got it.
just as a new concept
all right,
within his business.
cool.
And they're opening Saturday, right?
There. All right. On to new and unfinished.
Can I go back to that?
Yes, I apologize.
Whatever happened with the new business packets?
Ooh,
That we have former,
have them. I would like to do something with them in a slightly different capacity, but I, can put that on as something to be done. So the new business.
update that.
Yeah.
So then that, even though Chateau Chamonix is kind of
Yeah,
a,
it's important.
we should be welcoming our new businesses as opposed to,
One
other than just making mention at their meeting.
No, so let's add that to the next agenda.
Okay.
we have the old, we sponsored and created those, but a long time ago, so we have some of the files if you need them.
It needs to be updated,
No, they need to be updated here.
but it's a great concept, so let's see.
Can you send me those, Paul, can you send me those files?
Yeah, we'll look for them.
Gotta come hang out
I'm
back here.
interested to see it, but I'll look.
Then,
Yeah.
I mean, I have the boxes, but I don't have them.
Yeah, we have all the files, I think. Well, someone else does too.
You want me to add it
Yeah.
at the end for the.
Although they're not, they weren't computer savvy, that's why we did it.
Ah. Anything you have.
So this is the right form for that.
I mean, that was, two. I mean,
I'm gonna go back to agenda approval really quick. There was a a letter that was sent to a couple of members of the commission that I want to discuss at the end regarding Sixth Street codes and supporting the historic district. I don't know how much time we'll have for that discussion because we have a packed agenda and I have a hard stop at 10, but can I have a motion to approve the amended agenda? And a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Amended agenda is approved. Okay. Go, Jen, go.
Jen, having a moment. So I had a printer malfunction and I'm
Do you
trying to
want me
get,
to go on to, do you want to do the Christmas market recap first?
well, we can do that and then I'll hand that out at the end. These are the business feedbacks for Christmas market that I'm just trying to get together right now.
Okay.
And then I can go after that if that works.
Okay, so let's jump into the Christmas market recap. Mary Smith, go ahead and take the lead.
So everyone has it in their packet. I just sent out real basic comments and things that we had heard. Just wanted to get that into your brains so that we could just add to that list while it's still fresh in our minds. And then we can basically table it until we're in that planning stage, even though we're always in that planning stage. You know, maybe a month or two down the line. So any more comments, input, suggestions, thoughts to be considered? If anyone happens to see a abandoned propane fire pit somewhere along 6th Street, we're still looking for one that was moved down the sidewalk off the street the last night of Christmas market. We didn't want to shove people away from it because they were enjoying the ambiance, and an hour later it was MIA. So
It's a big effort to steal a fire pit from a closed street.
I want to think that it's been, you know,
Misplaced.
yeah. And so going once, going.
So just a couple of things. The first off, as I think we discussed in our last meeting, or no, I guess we didn't really. We had one meeting in between.
We mentioned, yeah.
The tent was phenomenal. Did an amazing job with the tent. I think next year, if we can look at an expansion of the alcohol service, we've all agreed that that would be helpful to the overall vibe. And I'm just looking at your stuff.
Yeah, no.
Did you guys feel that the occupancy limits that were placed on the second weekend of the tent impacted the market negatively or positively, one way or another?
No, we were fine. So the second weekend we started counting, and the agreement was there'd be no more than 150 people in the tent at one time. And so if you look down on the 6th or 7th bullet, I had the opportunity to just sit there and do a total head count. And to me, on a Sunday, on the second weekend, on probably slow time, those were the counts that I got within an hour period. So we had, and now we stayed within the occupancy permit, or the occupancy limits within 5 minutes or so. Found people in and out. But for that first hour, you know, we had 485 people come through that tent, to me, on a flow day. So if, you know, do the math, expand that over the course of the 2 weekends, and I just, you know, think that kind of accounts for about 12 or 15,000 people coming through town. So, but no, so the occupancy I don't think it harmed us at all. And Kelly was very appreciative of having the opportunity to meet with all of us and, you know, review that and come up with a plan. So, you know, obviously we will continue to do that as a town and a community for the next one if there are major changes. So.
What's the cost benefit there for each GI?
I'm sorry, what?
Was the cost benefit there for each?
I don't have
the tent?
the totals yet. Okay. I'm confident that because HDI charges the vendors.
Yeah.
And I'm confident with the amount of vendors that we had overall that, you know, paid for the tent. I don't know if once all the entertainment has been paid for, if there was a break even point. So.
Come hither, basket account administrator.
Pull the chair.
Slowly. Rick took a header at Loveland.
I just heard, yeah, sorry.
Sorry, we're just in the middle of discussing Christmas.
So,
Sorry.
this list is just, comments that were made here or there from vendors, from members, from whomever. What we really don't have here is a lot of input from town staff as it was, handled from that standpoint. So if there are, things that need to be addressed for next year, I think that's the important piece also, obviously. I know there's, some discussion whether Tower Street can be closed or not. I've beaten that one year after year. There's a lot that seem to want to, town staff, emergency personnel that have been issues with that both ways. So some of those things I think would be great to, when we have some meetings well in advance, not the week in between, and not a week or two before. This truly, you all know, events like this takes some time to plan. So, we'd just like to get ahead of the curve.
I know one of the things that came up in discussions was somehow trying to move the traffic circular, like in a circular pattern, one way and one way to facilitate that closure.
Yeah.
So what that would look like, I do not know, and what streets would be closed. I am not clear, but that was part of the commentary. Opening up to everybody here, Kevin, I'll start with you. Christmas market debrief thoughts, things you're pining to share.
In my time here, I feel like it was the most successful, and that comment is based on attendance and observation, conversations with folks, both internal and external visitors, as well as vendors and business owners like the Colonial Names. I think that we really moved it to the next level. I think it's easily competing with things like Chris Kindle down in Denver, which is a very polished event. But ours is a little more homegrown, real, authentic. So I think that that is to our benefit. I think it's right on brand with this town being authentic. And so I thought it was great. And I hope we don't backslide in any way, shape, or form. I hope we use this momentum and keep at least doing what we did this past year, but expand would be even better. I think the people were there. Yeah, we're open to it. Yeah. And thank you, Colonial Names, for being so trusting of
Very much.
our recommendations. They were thrilled.
That's what counts.
Yeah.
We needed them to be able to,
Yeah, if they had said no, then that would.
yeah.
No. So where can we put another 10 next year?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
You can always expand that.
We also have the whole courtyard. The courtyard could probably do 4 vendors, not that many, but there is space back in the courtyard if we keep it shoveled.
Paul?
I was only able to briefly walk through
Yeah.
one day. I will say that opening Towel Street and placing a tent there continued the psychological stretch of the street, which led people to this portion of the street, which has basically been with every festival we try to kill by closing off Towel Street. The parking lot also creates a problem for people not feeling as safe. There's a lot of study into if you have buildings on both sides and there's a buffer, like with the cars parked on the side of the street, it's the safest feeling for people. So they continue down. That's why you see businesses on either side close all the time here. So that observation, it was bustling and full of life. It really, really felt good. And it felt like the whole of 6th Street was being used. I do think it could expand. It can always, if we do it correctly, could expand off of 6th Street if Mary really wants to do that. But
School.
we try that, right? So we have to keep that visible, that pull, if we're gonna do it, but Yeah, that was just my quick observation of it. I thought it was really wonderful and first rate, and that town was brilliant.
Our dental office reasons are aggravating my allergies this morning.
All right,
So.
good job.
Good job.
Not looking for kudos, looking for what we need to do next year
Don't
to
vote, Tom.
make it better, change things
Or
smoother.
don't open
take things
house.
away. So,
The town's closure was actually a bit of like a discussion between town staff. Like there were some members of town staff that felt it absolutely should be closed because of safety.
Mhm.
And the second weekend, the police moved the school's pedestrian sign over. I will tell you from coming down from Soji or wherever I live. It was really hard to get across house. It was super, super hard. Because I had to take my kids to the babysitter at the end of house. And it took me 15 minutes to get through from my house. And it was just, I mean, I can see if you are a not paying attention driver, the potential safety impact it could have if you had somebody who was like, didn't see, because you couldn't see the stop sign. I knew the stop sign was there. But the food, whatever the trailer, truck trailer, whatever you want to call it. He blocks the stop sign. And then there was just so much pedestrian traffic. So we either need to figure out a solution to have some type of volunteer. What is it? It's beeping at me.
Some sort of.
That's what they are learning.
Stop beeping. That's bad.
It's the concern, both ways of town staff. Other members of town staff were very concerned about closing it for the reasons that you're, to flow traffic, causing a bottleneck, because people who don't know Georgetown are gonna get stuck. Because you would have to close it up higher.
Yeah,
And there was concern about trying to move the amount of cars we had through.
so may I respond?
Yeah,
The reason I bring it up is because that's been the thing for the 13 years that I've lived here. And the result is still, you're killing this side of Rose Street and sacrificing it, just like putting bus parking in front of the hotel property. Instead of finding bus parking elsewhere, which is actually just town cop parking. And then the vehicles are running all the time, which ruins the viewscape there, and everybody's worrying about the view shed everywhere else. This is my observation of it, and it's from new urbanism, it's from my past career. And from studies that were done in Atlanta to show, and elsewhere around the country, to show what traffic flows are and how people work and how people want to work in multiple cities. So we change our wayfinding, we change the stop signs earlier. 15 minutes on a festival weekend is nothing. And I'm sorry if it's a little inconvenience for people, but suck it up. Because we rely on this for, no, I know, I'm not at you personally, but I know, this isn't at you personally, but you hear that kind of stuff in town. Well, it's a very important part of our economy. It's also a very important part of why we love this town. If you have, it is a luxury to be able to live in a resort area that occasionally has some tourists, and you have a little bit of inconvenience. You go, oh, these tourists are stopping me from getting to work for 5 more minutes. That is a luxury that we have. We should not, and businesses always have trouble here because of that fall. And my position is, and I want it on the record, is that Taos needs to be closed during festivals. That is the reality of it. How they make that work and how we make that work is the challenge there. And that's the opportunity. Instead of, nope, we're not going to do it because there are some problems here. That it is an opportunity that we need to solve as a community. Thank you. Second soda.
next time I'm gonna just bring my kids to your house because it's 5 minutes close.
I'm in. I lived in Atlanta for 20 years. Don't talk to me about traffic. Yeah, I know. No, I got what you're doing, but also what I'm saying is it's a common refrain that we get. And it's a luxury to be able to whine like that,
It's true.
having done.
15 minutes to Georgetown is a long time.
Which.
It does feel like it.
Which is just part of the, maybe, town messaging prior to is, setting expectations.
My city, they can't
You
park in my
may
house.
experience delays, plan ahead, and maybe that could be woven into.
Right, it's kind of like.
the project. So it's obvious to some, but not to all.
No, it is, it's a good problem to have.
It is, and also just by saying it acknowledges that there is a problem and there is an awareness. And so, and people need to feel heard.
Anyway, it was a great event, and those are the things I saw.
We're gonna move on to Justin now.
What? I would just echo that. I think it was a great event as well. It felt like the most lively of the ones that we've had since we've been here, Jamie and I. So good job making that happen. I know our guests that we had a lot of compliments on that. So the tent, I think, was spectacular. My general observations, not too many. I think just from walking around, it felt like more seating could have been available for people outside.
That was on your list, right?
And then just more of Christmas and Heritage. Just to touch on the expansion topic of that, I think everything that is being done, the look, the feel, and all that is great. It would just be nice to have some of the guests did comment that, you know, they loved it. They just wish that there was more. They didn't really specify or anything like that, but just maybe, you know, in general terms, to take up more of their day. You know, they feel like they can walk through the street up and down in a certain amount of time. They love it and they just want more of it. You know, they still just more things to see and do, whatever.
Go on at Shop International.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that sort of thing, but I don't even think that was a criticism. I think it was just that they really enjoyed it and they wish there was more of it. So
Yeah.
instead of one tent,
Close
you
to
know,
us.
20 tents.
That's what I get. Yeah.
Yeah, so, but no, overall, it was great. Jamie and I made time to go down there and check it out, and we both had a great time. We both remarked that we thought it was the best one that we've been part of. So heading in a good direction for sure.
Thank you. Agreed, Craig?
That was Christmas market number 55 for me.
Just another day in the.
Just another day. Probably number 48 that I participated in. It was fantastic. The tent was obviously a huge addition. I agree with Justin's guess, and always have, that it feels like it's Christmas market. It tends to be one thing for it as an experience, and people have made a significant effort to get here, find a place to park. They want to spend the day here. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know if it looks like engaging the Heritage Center more. Sorry, the old school. Do I have it right yet?
It's old school.
I'm not sure what made the events at Worthing Park. I don't know. But I get that comment, and I've heard it before, and frankly, I've experienced it myself. Just, okay, you're having a good evening. The only other point I'll chime in on is that I think it has now reached a level where we need to take the entirety of the planning and the entirety of the execution up just a notch. Not that you and Robert didn't do a great job, but we almost closed another site for the next 2 weeks. We think you were sleeping.
Yeah.
But for example, with the Taos Street conversation, I disagree with Paul. I think it should stay open. I think from a traffic circulation perspective, it has to. And I actually have looked at this 18 different ways from Sunday, but it's super easy to solve. One guy, yellow vest. I drove through that intersection 30 times in the 2 weeks between hauling stuff up to the tent. I mean, I was a vendor in the tent. And yes, it was difficult to get through that intersection, not impossible. Wasn't frankly a huge hazard for the pedestrians, would have been no hazard for the pedestrians if there had been an active traffic control in that intersection. And I'm not talking about some dude with a whistle with a dog and a whole 9 yards. But you know, just simple, you guys hold there, you guys hold there. That was the busiest street, and this says something. That was the busiest street I've been on from an event perspective since I was in Park City in 2002. In their main street. I mean, it was busy. And it's, I mean, if we're gonna keep doing that, we can make a modest investment, in particular as a town, and not put the entire financial burden on HDI. It's a town event sponsored and coordinated by HDI. Thank God. And we should be making a more significant investment in it, because sales tax revenue that it generates for the community, as well as the revenue it generates for the community's businesses, is substantial.
It's true.
So I think that there's all these are little problems that are totally solvable. And I, for one, look forward to getting into them, hopefully in June or July and
March.
March, that's fine too. And having all the problems solved before we get to,
Yeah.
before we even get to November, we'll take Thanksgiving off.
Which actually, so we have this expansion of revenue coming into our budget. And one of the things that I wrote into that budget was more, and I called it, I forget what I called it. It was paid.
Amanda's slush fund.
Yes. It's basically the expansion of allowing for paid like law enforcement, not actual law enforcement, but security for events. So that the burden for like example, if we want to have an alcohol tent, that doesn't just fall on our police officers, that we have people that we could pay to come up and help with these types of things. And I wrote it into 3 events, 4th of July, Christmas market, and Memorial Day. Because those are the 3 that we seem to, that are probably the biggest. And for Christmas market, we could pay somebody if we had to stand in that intersection, or we could pay somebody so that we could expand the alcohol service to go onto, the street.
I have it as a strategy for increased volunteers and paid staff to effectively and safely execute large events.
Yeah, so we've got revenue streams for this, so we can, it can be done, it can be executed. So, Gary, you're the last one. You're gonna talk.
And walk around the whole, it was just me and an assistant working in the shop, this market, but, I talked to a lot of the merchants. They all were pretty impressed with it. I thought it was one of the best markets we've ever had. Tons of people on all 4 days. And we did pretty well with it. So I think one of the improvements that I did notice on the sheet here is if they could put gutters on the where the booths are.
I think they're planning on that. I think that's just.
It is now planned.
That's the only complaints I was here for people.
Yeah.
But I thought it was one of the best Christmas markets ever.
The old ones didn't have gutters. Why did the new ones need gutters?
We've never done it that way,
You're Georgetown, man.
But what gutters?
I know, seriously.
It's our motto.
So as we, this Christmas market debrief document is not like, it can be edited. Continue to add to it, continue to think about things. There was a lot of different, some really great ideas. The fire pits were amazing. The idea of getting Instagram frames and photo booths for selfies is a huge marketing coup. Some more volunteer presence. It's all good stuff. So if there's things that you guys want to see added on, by all means, add it on, and we'll do an official, starting to plan for it in April, it sounds like.
I'm gonna throw this one thing out, and just so that you're all aware, HGI had on now. HGI, and I think this would have tied in great to the type of market that we had this last year. It's a year ago already. Anyway, the recyclable, reusable, big shopping bags with all sorts of things about Georgetown on them. We had thought we had a good source to put them together for a fairly reasonable price, and we're ready to pass them out for free at market, not even having the foresight to see how well it would have gone. I mean, we were still in our heads limiting it to Strauss Park, even though we knew we were going to have the tent. I bring that up not because it's a costly item, but to engage with the different entities to have pictures on the bags for this upcoming year. maybe a little bit of money might not hurt. Maybe the town might end up supporting it in some way. Which would then just be continued advertising if someone uses that recyclable bag because plastic's no longer allowed in Colorado. Throughout the state, you know, and then you see this Georgetown bag. It might be Christmas market, it might be more just Georgetown. I mean, you know my concept that I'm kind of, so I think it would have lent itself well for all the little stuff that people get, you know, in a practical purpose, but it would be a great piece of advertising for us too. So,
And businesses could stuff things into the bag as
yeah,
it's handed out if they were inclined.
well, exactly. And, you know, names of the different businesses, you know, could be on there and everything. This came up in an HGI thing, meeting, special events meeting, late summer, and they're just the manufacturer actually was the one that ended up killing it from coming to fruition. I think they bit off more than they could chew. So with that thought, now that it's only January and we have 12 whole months to plan for this, you'll probably be hearing more from HGI as we go on with that to see how you all want to participate.
That's cool.
Okay.
I didn't hear a lot of good feedback about the brochures. People
Yeah.
said they loved them.
And I think we actually got them distributed more this time around than in the past where there were boxes sitting there for posterity. So. Well, thanks, guys. I'll add this to my list and anything else that we've got.
Was there any entertainment in the community center or was it just the tent and the stage?
We're not in the community center anymore. The Book Nook is in the community center, so it was all on library stage, and then each afternoon we had one type of performance in the tent. So with pros and cons to that. Some people seem to like it, some people didn't seem to like it.
I thought that vibe in
In
the tent was
in the
cool.
tent,
Yeah, to me,
Kenny G can be in my part of the tent anytime he wants.
the tent
It was awesome.
the tent was a great back. I mean, we all recognize that Mother Nature had a huge piece of our success at Christmas market. That next weekend, we wouldn't be talking the way we are. But the tent there was also, you know, a backup if weather was ridiculously cold and unbearable. And, you know, would have prevented our performers from being on library stage. So.
For the schools, I'll put on my school board hat, it was the best brat booth we've done since I've been around. So this was my seventh brat booth. And the net was somewhere in the vicinity of like 12,000 in brat sales. And then sort of we're still getting the profits organized, but it was a really good brat booth. And thank you to our town administrator for selling brats on behalf of Georgetown Community School. Did you learn anything about the magic of bratwurst?
The smell.
When they're next to a beer, you know, purveyor.
We could have built so many more volunteer spots if parents had known the proximity of that booth. We always have to be like. Next year, we're advertising down. We'll have people on a waiting list to work the brat booth. All right, anything else on Christmas market?
You want to add your?
Yeah, I mean, we can segue that into me. So I, in my business visits did over the last couple of weeks and I certainly have by no means hit every business yet. I'm still working on it for Christmas market feedback, but I did just print up blurbs from pretty much, store owners, anyone who's working that day that had something that they wanted to share. With this is also a second question that's more about my report, and that's on a newsletter feedback, just what people would want to see in a newsletter from me on behalf of business promotion. So that's on here too. But this is when my printer kind of went goofy, but if you want one, you know, it's like 3 pages long of just blurbs, but basically I would say the bags, would be super well received. I heard from many people, they want something commemorative. To whether it be a mug or whatever that, you know, either said Christmas market, 62nd annual Christmas market or something like that, even if it's a for sale item. Taylor really wanted that for you guys, Craig, like a refillable, but even if it's just something that we do as a town, that's for sure, but the bags fall into that for sure.
Just on that note, does it, I mean, I've never seen the posters, you know. Why do we do the posters?
Yeah, look at posters.
We threw out tons, HBI threw out tons of past posters. I mean, I think there was a time for them.
Mhm.
And.
no one likes posters anymore.
No one does posters.
No, and I even gave them away at the visitor center.
Well,
Now I need one of each because my flood killed all of my interpretive.
that would,
Talk to Jamie and Justin because I think they have one of each.
just because we gave
Quite a few.
just because we had.
You want 'em each?
I don't know if we have one each, but we have a lot.
I don't know that that justifies not doing them, just because we overprinted.
Oh, I get it. I have no idea what.
I think they're fantastic. I still see them around.
I just don't sell posters. I don't sell posters at
I
all
know they go-
because people don't buy posters now much.
But even, I mean, you could even do I think it's the commissioning and having something unique that represents that particular year. And you could do a much smaller format,
Oh, yeah.
right? Something that's, maybe 11 by 17 as opposed to.
But you don't need that.
The old lane ski boot posters, which I saw a couple of.
You say they do or
That would
not?
be something that the hotel.
They do,
could
they sell crazy ones, but posters are huge things.
Advertise.
It's funny.
I wonder if we could get one of each year, just to have like not every year.
Well,
For 60 people.
we've been open, do it from,
Right, just a few.
2019 through, even though I know there was a.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen, I haven't seen any
There's
poster
still
commission.
some Rick's office around if you want to check down, man.
Have you seen new posters commission since you've been around?
No, not since I've been here. I think the last one might have been the Giclée. That was so hard to ditch. I mean, I literally gave them away with sales and stuff. Just like, here you go.
Yeah, fair enough. It was just a.
But commemorative's great, but
observation.
I would be really interested in the demographic that wants commemorative items specifically, rather than digital items or items that are useful and practical. Stickers. Like, is it the boomer generation or the up and coming generations that are about to be our market demographic instead of the older generations, which are fading demographic?
No.
And that's the one that we should be targeting. And do they necessarily want things like posters or posters about to become the trend? They want stickers. They love stickers today.
They do.
Today, they love stickers.
There's a
I don't know how long that's still.
Action,
But we could
with
do
Instagram
stickers. I can
and
commission those.
TikTok with the market. And that's speaking of those generations.
Yeah,
And, so I don't know if there's a way to like reach out to some of those people.
Insta, you did it.
But
Well, now they're not Insta, they're TikTok, but still you did it with, if we had because they're still on TikTok and they're still on
you were gonna
the
say
one you do,
MySpace.
I almost said MySpace, the one you, FaceTime, is it not FaceTime, Snap, they're still snapping, and it's how bad I am, I never saw MySpace, just so you know.
Space you went to
I didn't know, I thought it was for children.
space.
I didn't get to Facebook. I used to make fun of the first adults I got on Facebook because it was deleted.
So we had like 6 grand.
But I can easily commission a sticker. I have multiple groups where I can commission stickers. So if you wanted to use my suppliers for that,
We'll add that to the list.
Everybody want me.
yeah, I have those.
They love beanies too. Long sleeve t-shirts.
So I want to compete.
And a poster, if you want to do one in small runs, it's just more expensive in small runs.
It's funny, like, I'm coming from Augusta, the Masters is a huge event and they sell out everything, the merchandise. And it is interesting to, if we could figure out what this current generation or younger generation is wanting, because I noticed that golf hats and pins were super popular for people who go consistently. Now, golf hat wouldn't work here, but a stocking hat or something for Christmas, and then you can get a commemorative pin to put on it. But I don't know if that would work with the younger generation. But socks and things like that seem like people love. I mean, in fact, I like crazy socks too.
Socks have been a trend for about 3 years. I'm in retail. And pins go in and out, they're on the out. We had a trend for about 5 minutes to get back to patches. Stickers have been in for about 3 years. I can't keep them on the shelf. I can have posters commissioned. I have a group that works with me to do semi custom posters if I want and semi-custom stuff. I work with them all the time. I do huge amounts of money with them.
Look, stickers are really.
Yeah, stickers you can't keep in right now, and they've been doing for a few years.
Well,
But clothing trends,
there's a lot of good feedback.
I would
out
talk
there.
to Mark about clothes.
There you
Um,
go.
I will say just on the, just, you talked about the Chris Kindle market, this just kind of dawned on me, when we were there, Ryan and I and the boys went on the 21st. And they were sold, they didn't have any commemorative merchandise left at any of the places you went. And that was on the, that was obviously 3 days before the market ended, but if you got like the blue vine or a beer, there was no option for a mug or a stein or anything. You just had to, it was just in plastic.
Well, t-shirts never go. T-shirts never stop being popular.
Yeah. All right.
That covers commemorative. That just brought me, when you said Chris Kindle, I was just gonna mention, because I don't think we said it earlier, but we did make it from number 10 to number 7
Yeah,
in best holiday markets nationwide. I have not seen anyone move like that from where they started, which was just a mass social media voting effort. I think that's what I attribute it to. We got a ton of participation in moving us up. So everyone was pretty happy with that. Chris Kindle market happened to finish at number 3. Most of the markets that you find on that list are really big. So we do a pretty awesome job making that list every year. I'd like to see us start climbing up so we can climb faster, but I felt good about that campaign. So to anybody who helped make that happen, thank you. And thanks for getting the word out for people to vote. Banner update. I have them. That's all I know. We're gonna put them up when Christmas decorations come down, seems to be the plan, which you said is after the stock market. Stock show.
There's one.
That's something.
The Southwest.
We didn't know anything about that until you said it, and then I had to go read about it for some time yesterday to know what you're talking about. But I think it's the 21st of January is what it was.
Stock is actually a big deal for us, because we're a front range destination, and it's a huge, they've got the parade is coming back this year.
Thursday.
It's a big deal.
I haven't heard of it, so what?
oh, it's,
We're down for business promotions day at the stock show.
Let's go.
So we'll post that.
Let's go to the Mexican rodeo. I thought.
So
Denver, okay.
we're not gonna spend all the time on it, but it's basically, it's the largest livestock auction in the, is it the Western US?
Next.
Yeah, but so people come from all over the Western United States to sell their livestock. And now, and it's been going on for like 100 and some years. I forget how many years. It's like over 100 years. But it's expanded into this, like there's a rodeo every day, a couple times a day, and then it's expanded into all kinds of crazy stuff. And there's actually an entire complex built just for this event. And like kids come, there's like the 4-H auction come, the kids sell like their cow that they raised from a baby for like $150,000 so they could pay for college, and you can buy like a churro and a cowboy hat. And
It's been going on, I'm looking at it, it's been going on 115 years, it was 700,000 people, 30 rodeos, 11 horse shows, and countless others.
Let's have a rodeo here.
it's a huge
The
Denver benefit from it pretty well because people day trip up there. Like we'll start to see stock show folks coming up, and you can tell they're stock.
oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's something I need to capitalize on. It's not something I knew about, but it sounds like something we can capitalize on for sure. We're already getting some traffic.
Traffic from
Yeah,
past years, that traffic's kind of gone down.
well, they haven't done, they didn't do the parade. So Thursday is the kickoff in Denver, and they do this parade. And a parade is basically this whole,
It's steers, it's not.
yeah. No, you're good, no worries. Yeah, so the parade is basically like, takes up all, they close all the streets in downtown Denver, and it's that.
Walk the stairs there, that's fabulous.
I think the parade
It's Thursday station.
They ski behind horses and ski boat.
Ski Jordan, yeah. So anyway, that's stock show.
So do you want to set that up for here?
But it's also a Colorado tradition that you don't take down your Christmas lights until after the stock show.
You too.
And it makes no sense to anybody but people who are born in Colorado.
And there was a whole article just specifically on that, like, if you want to extend your Christmas decorations, you should go to Denver, because this is why we keep them up this long. And correction on that date, it ends the 22nd, so I guess anytime after that, the decorations that we have up could come down, and then we can work on getting the banners up. But they are all present and accounted for and paid for. And I think they look good with the color black change. If anyone wants to see them, let me know. Kevin, do you want to do the wayfindings next time? Do you want to tackle that now?
And so, you should all have a packet on wayfinding. And so this is, today, just, an awareness presentation. Sort of what we have, what we're thinking about, what we're facing. I typically don't read, bullet points to people, but for the recording, I will today. So, you know, we're here to help enhance the visitor experience, and that includes stimulating commerce. And so that can look like so many different things. But if the visitor is happy and having a good time, the assumption is that visitor will stay longer and perhaps spend more money locally. So we've done a little bit of maintenance of some of our wayfinding signage, but we've never gotten sort of a full concept of what's out there in our world. So thank you, Jim Jordan, for accompanying me. We spent, I think, a couple of hours driving around in my little golf cart before the weather got bad. We had a really nice kind of one day. And we went around town to try to identify all the different types of signage. And it gets complicated real fast. And so what I did was I made some decisions, and I hope you'll support those decisions. But basically I broke it down into big basic categories, one being informational signage and the other being directional signage. So we'll start with that. So the 4 pages of illustrations, you'll see informational on 2, directional on 2. And what we're going to do is assume that the big green and burgundy signs that we have all over town are our standard. That will be what we're mapping to. So that will be our branding standard. And so I made that decision because the one at the roundabout located at the visitor center is the most recent one, and it's only a few years old. So to deviate from that plan would be very expensive. It would be mean replacing all signage throughout the town. And I don't think that's necessary, especially since this one sign is so new and I think effective. So what we're trying to do is place additional permanent temporary signage. Temporary would be things like A-frame signage. Like we've talked in the past about having an A-frame sign in front of the town hall, pointing out the restrooms, because people get a little confused here. And the same with the new restrooms at Strauss Park. They're kind of tucked around the corner. So a temporary sign would be something that you could put up and down, depending on your need, and also for like special events. We need to probably better point out civic buildings like the town hall. The sign that's on the front of town hall is hard to read and confusing for people, and it doesn't match the branding standards. And so I think that needs to be looked at. When it comes to Clear Creek County, I wouldn't replace their signage on their property, but maybe arrows could be considered, pointing directional signs pointing that way. Local gathering places like town parks. I don't think all of our town parks are identified. I think only Town Park is, but I think the other town parks are not. Strauss Park has a little sign and it's very rustic and sort of routed. Charming as it is, it doesn't support our branding standards. Georgetown Lake, I don't believe is identified. I think that's what Jen and I decided was that it's not identified in any way.
One small sign.
What's that?
One small sign, but it was it's more of a warning sign.
Oh.
Than like the beautiful, this is Georgetown Lake, so it's more like Georgetown Lake.
So the bottom line is, the existing conforming signage should remain in place. But should be updated or corrected. So here's an example of what I mean by that. So, on the informational conforming page, top row on the right, it says Loop Railroad, shopping and dining, museums, Guanella Pass. Well, we have more than museums now. We also have the mine. So I think the word museums needs to be updated to attractions. It becomes broader, more inclusive, so I think that needs to be changed. Shopping and dining, boy, that's a tough one when you have a brewery dining. So should it be food and drink? That would be more encompassing. So those are just thoughts. I don't have answers at this point. Those are thoughts. But this sign in particular, it, I believe, needs to have a mate on the other end of town up by the gateway. Because we have a brewery now at the lake that we didn't have before. With food, there's a hotel.
That's what I was gonna say, logic.
And there's more shopping and dining to come. And so I think that this needs to be recreated on the other end of town. The second row, first photo on the left, which is, you're probably like, what the heck is that? That's the same design from the side. This is the view coming down Loop Drive. So we always are talking about trying to ensnare those train visitors to come shop downtown and hang out a little bit longer, to spend more money. But they're coming down and this sign is ineffective from that direction. So it's effective when you're going south on Argentine, absolutely ineffective when you're going east on 6th. Okay. The signs on the side of the community center, Camel House, Hotel Paris, those are museums, but you wouldn't know that unless you were intimate with our sites. And then again, where's the fourth attraction, the mine? I had forgotten that we had wildlife viewing signs. We have 2 of them. The one at the bottom in the middle is just to show the condition. It's sort of eaten up with being blasted by ice and the sun and everything. And so we do need some maintenance on that. But before we do that, let's figure out if we even need that sign, since there are 2, and if the sign's appropriate, it's large enough, it's saying what we need it to say. The informational non-conforming. These are some things that we may or may not have control over. Like the first one, the Georgetown City Limit sign. Who would own that, Rick? Would that be CDOT? Would that be the county? CDOT, okay. So we really have no jurisdiction over that. But what I would say is, my question is, why don't we have a second one at the other entrance to town? That would be Guanella Pass. Why isn't there another Georgetown sign like this with the proper elevation coming in this way? So I don't know how we could get that conversation started. I keep looking at you, Rick, because I don't have contacts like that. But I don't know if a town only gets one, or if you get one at the entrance. But we get a fair amount of visitors coming in seasonally from that direction. So I just want to know the answer to that. Of course, the boulder to me is a sacred cow. I know other people don't care for the boulder. But to me, it's okay that it's non-conforming, because it says a lot about our local culture. We're in mining, we're in the Rocky Mountains. I know there were plans at one time to have statues of bighorns, like bronze statues of bighorns on the traffic circle. Maybe that needs to be part of this wayfinding as well. Just that sense of arrival. So I think that the boulder is exempt from being conforming. I think it's fine. I like it. The visitor information canopy structure. I don't know how effective it is. I don't know if people use it. I don't know if they care, but it is not conforming to our branding standards. And then the same with the public parking sign at Hotel Paris. It's rustic. It's like Old West, 1970s concept of Old West. And here's an opportunity that maybe other attractions like the mine could be pointed out going that direction. Public parking is more clearly defined. Town hall, whatever the messaging is, but I think there's a lot of opportunity. So,
this one looks like it was HGPLC.
okay, and see, and that's the other thing. I was starting
The visit
to
information.
assign ownership to the signs, but it was a wild guess sometimes. Sometimes like the CDOT sign. It's like, is that town, CDOT or county? And so I stopped assigning signs. We need to figure out during this process, this project, who owns the sign, or if it's cooperative, like the big sign at the BC, is it on your property?
We
Is
don't
that a
actually
cooperative?
own that. That's a CDOT right of way, but we had approval of it. We don't own past the building.
Okay. So there are a lot of players in this, and so those stakeholders need to be identified. And I think in conversations after today, they need to be invited from that point forward, because there are going to be things that I'm overlooking as a volunteer.
I have a comment on that Boulder sign, the one sign when you come in the roundabout. Sometimes you can't hardly see it because of the contrast of the letters and also the color of the sign or stone. But why can't we have a brand new sign that looks really attractive like some of the other mountain towns? So welcome aboard.
I can tell you how that sign ended up there. Is that sign was in the crappy little landscape area that existed when that was a four-way intersection. And that was, frankly, was a negotiation point with the community. Because lots of people didn't like the idea of a roundabout. Thank God for the freaking roundabout.
Right.
I can only picture Christmas market weekend with a four-way intersection there. Speaking of traffic reflection, so that's where that came from. That sign actually has existed for. I don't even remember when they put that in.
So it's historic.
Well, it's not historic, but it's. I mean, it's been it's 30 years old.
Well, then what we could do is
It was never lit before the roundabout.
maybe look at some sort of adaptation, like maybe with the use of LED lights, maybe LED could be put behind those letters. I think those letters stand out a little bit on the heads. And I don't know a lot about LED, but yeah, so I think this is the time to have that conversation.
For what it's worth, that is a highly photographed sign. People take their lives in their hands to run.
Oh, I see it all the time. It's, yeah.
Several of the rock.
No,
You were
it's-
part of the Gateway project, weren't the sheep, it was just cost prohibitive, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what I know.
we're several years past that.
Just to, you know.
Something.
Cindy would have some detail on.
Yeah, I'll chat with her. If you can.
Go for it.
I just have a question about the mine.
Yeah,
Isn't there a reason why we cannot put the mine on the public side?
well, you can't put the name of the business, and so that's why I thought attractions was better than museums, because it is more than just museums now. Now, when it comes to what information might be on the sign here in the parking lot, I don't know, because my understanding and this is what I was told in
You said where we were just talking.
yeah,
about.
but having said that, there it is.
Right.
So what is it?
What are you talking
Could we
about?
just say,
Is it because they're
Mine?
nonprofit? Is it because they're nonprofits that's an exemption?
that's,
But that is not a nonprofit.
right,
And so these are the details. I don't know if this is written down anywhere.
It is, it's in the sign code.
Okay, good. And that's the other thing.
I have to be very, very tuned into the sign code right now.
Good.
Ask me how later.
Yeah, and I did that's bullet points, but I should have. Those are two other stakeholders that whoever reviews our signs, and then I would say PRC as well. And so
Parks-
just keep in
Parks
mind,
needs to be.
parks, there you go.
The
The colonial names.
the lakeside is parks.
Okay. Things that I did not have time to add, but I'll just mention. I should have on informational, non-conforming, added the big overhead sign that says historic Georgetown. And there was talk in the past of updating that with LED lighting instead of fluorescent. Now would be the time to have that discussion, but like the boulder, even though it's non-conforming, it has a history here and it's been embraced. And so I think that one won't match branding standards. I think that'll be another exemption.
I'd like to see the big Georgetown sign that needs to be repainted.
Yes, and that too, the maintenance of it. And then since we're talking about overhead signs, the overhead sign idea that petered out at the 11th Street Bridge, if that's never going to move forward, never be executed, I think we should consider removing those two stanchions, whatever you want to
What were
call
we gonna
them,
do?
towers. It was going to be for banners, and then after it got erected,
It was the wrong.
it was too short for trucks to get underneath the banners, and so and it was already in place. And so I don't know if we want to ignore it, adapt it, or remove it.
That's a really good point.
So
Or
there,
at least remove the cardboard sonotube from the concrete.
That'd be nice.
yeah, right on. And so here are our strategies: replace, expand, and install. We need to define those branding standards. And so I would say that it would probably be in the House of Science file. I don't know which commission came up with this, but there's got to be valuable information from the past of how we got these.
That would be sending to me, I can get that
Okay,
information.
that would be
The
great.
sign
We can
code
put it
is
in a
part
file
of the
for
gateway
this project.
I might have it
We
in
need
my
to
office.
finalize the signage inventory, as I pointed out, I've missed a few, including the safety sign at the lake about hypothermia. So that's another sign, and it's informational, but it's probably non-conforming. I haven't seen it lately. And then it needs to be mapped. We need an overhead of Georgetown with the locations of these signs in order to eventually do an RFP, which Rick would do for us.
Kevin,
Yes.
we spoke about it, but I don't know if we want to add the water tower to all of this conversation as well.
Might as well.
Okay,
Speaking of non-conforming.
Yeah, that would be.
Now Georgetown.
Yeah.
yeah,
It's paid by.
Okay, very good.
Isn't that just a way?
Okay, let me finish real quick. Okay, so we're going to, we need to map it, do an RFP. We need to have the town staff involved as well as business promotions and selectmen as well. The scope of work, of course, will be finalized, estimates submitted and chosen. Then we have to find money for this and figure out if we're doing it in one fell swoop or in phases. And then finally, new signage is fabricated and installed. So our goals here are to create consistency, expand or remove signage, correct or update information. And I think it would be erroneous to ignore the public. I think we need to poll some visitors and find out where they think those shortcomings are. I can tell you the two that are I'm painfully aware of are, where do I park and where's the bathroom? So that's about it, folks.
Good job.
Excellent job.
Thank you for your time.
Really just a couple of quick thoughts that I just, in regards to the CDOT signage.
Yeah.
What opportunities would we have for grants? Like GoCo grants, for example, would that qualify? In the scheme of
Not too bad.
like, or the lake signage, would any of that fit into the GoCo grant scheme?
Maybe Rick would know.
It sounds like that would fall under GoCo because it's parks related.
Yeah.
I can research it.
I feel like in the expansion of this project, whatever opportunities we can maybe find for grants with like Cindy Neely and the Main Street grants that she's been chasing for a long time, GoCo grants for the lake, those types of things to help offset some of the stuff that we may have to absorb, as a community as a town for costs.
Yeah.
Especially when we're talking about changing, adding gilded bighorn sheep to the roundabout, which sounds amazing, but it's probably very expensive. I can't imagine what a bronze bighorn.
These signs are really expensive too. This
Oh,
company
sure.
that does these nice signs, they're really expensive.
And I don't know if anyone, I'm sure that you guys all saw in the packet, and I've noticed it, and I'm sure that everyone has, the wildlife viewing area sign is down on the roundabout right now.
Yeah.
It's kind of lame.
Been there for a while.
Yeah.
I think that's how Rick got injured. He actually hit it. He wasn't in that.
With his golf cart.
One of the things that Kevin and I talked about too, that, and this would be like, obviously budget prohibitive, but it'd be great to have somebody who, like Paul was saying, that is an expert in how people behave and how they travel throughout town, and some type of, if it's an urban planner, or if signage companies have that kind of person on staff, but somebody who could help us direct the flow, so we're not just like,
Yeah. This
"It's fine here, let's do
this
it here."
information collection. And so this is a starting point, but I absolutely agree that we need to engage the services of an expert on wayfinding and behavior, visitation patterns, all of that, so that we're not just guessing and, oh yeah, that worked, that didn't work. No, we need an overall concept.
A lot of that information too is available on the web for walkable cities. The whole point
I'm
is to
sorry.
create walkable downtowns.
This is not an area where I would be in favor of spending money on a consultant. I think we're all perfectly capable. We have enough experience with our visitorship, the questions they ask us that we can. This is something we can.
And that is the downside of consultants, because I've had good and bad experience with consultants.
They're gonna tell us whatever.
If you, a lot of times what, and I think this is where you're going, correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of times you feed them that information and then they just hand it back.
Hand it right back.
Right, exactly.
It is a consultant.
Universities have programs that will offer to municipalities, like an internship type thing. They want to send in their crew, their master's students to do different studies. It's something that we could certainly look into as a town, so that we're not paying the big bucks, and maybe we would have some people who are a little bit more impressionable than those that want to spit out the same old thing.
Right.
So.
I think the mine, by the way, is covered under museums because, and it might have been when you were police judge, Craig. They came to, because I was at that meeting for some reason, they came to selectmen and asked that for-profit museums be recognized by the town.
In what regard?
I don't recall. There's.
Because we weren't recognizing for-profit museums as museums in town, but it wasn't nonprofit. I'm sorry, Craig.
No, there's a lot more to unpack with that whole conversation. That we have time for.
But there was a vote on it.
And also in the trainings marketing this year, for the first time that I noticed,
It's not.
they describe themselves as a museum. And so it does say Loop Railroad, so that is a business with one of these signs, and so.
No, it's not the same because
It's a nonprofit though.
it's a concessionaire
Yeah.
of a nonprofit that has a lot of interest in the town. So the
state.
thing is, the state is actually the full park.
Yeah.
It is the concessionaire of the park that operates the train for the state of Colorado. So, and that is why they have so much interest in the visitor center.
But see, that going back to these conforming signs, if there's a file with all the discussions of how they came to this as a product, I don't want to reinvent the wheel. If they've already had these discussions, I'd like to kind of read them and see how they arrived at this set.
No.
I mean, I've never seen such a file.
Okay. Well, then it would be a conversation with like this.
So we can look.
Here's what I
think
think,
just put the house.
really quick, I think we need to.
okay.
There's a lot, obvious, I'm like, oh God. There's obviously, Kevin, phenomenal job,
Yes, thank you.
great job, you guys, as a team, did an amazing job. Hats off to both of you.
I did a wayfinding project in Atlanta, and so I'm just kind of pulling off of that experience a little bit. It's comparable to this.
This is an incredibly valuable starting point for us as a commission. identifying the action that needs to be taken is a really important cohesive step to getting this, all the work that you guys put in to matter. So for the next meeting, this will be on the agenda. That's gonna be.
Yeah, and I think we need to start identifying stakeholders, and we need to let other stakeholders self-identify. And so I don't know how we can get that message out there that this is a discussion that's being had, but invite people who might have interest.
Sure.
I can take that.
Again, we need to listen to everybody. We may not take their direction, but we owe them being heard.
Okay, no, I totally agree. The other thing that, as we review kind of the consistent, like, rolling problem we have where specifically in the winter, the historic district really suffers in improving the wayfinding for that from a, commerce standpoint is super important.
Yeah.
And so I think that this is an amazing starting point. So it will be on the agenda for next month for you to carry
Sounds
on.
good. I will keep the momentum going.
Cool. And then as far as like the direction of the commission, as everyone walks away today, take some time to review this, come back in with some information so we can spend a pretty valuable chunk of time finalizing or beginning a plan rather of action to get, because I think in a perfect world, we would probably want some RFPs out by April.
Wow. Okay, cool.
That would be, so we could maybe get something in place by summer.
Yeah, God, that'd be great.
And as far as GoCo grants and things like that, I will punt that to our town administrator. That's my dodo. Okay,
Back to Winterfest.
yeah,
I'll talk fast.
yeah, you're good.
Not usually have a problem with the fast talking, but, Winterfest, we're still basically in the planning stages. We have some things finalized. The marketing is out, social media is out on the website. We have printed flyers, looking into a banner for it right now. I'd say just logistics and layout, and then sort of the split of some of the costs and revenue are still a little bit up in the air. Like maybe we internet, but I think we're pretty close. This is a three-way partnership between Cabin Creek and CCMRD and the town. So right now we're looking at a pond hockey tournament. I don't remember how much I said at the last meeting about this, but to recap, pond hockey tournament on the lake. I've been told we can maintain the ice for the day. So there'll be several pond hockey rinks operating at one time, depending on how many registrations we get. We're just at 2 right now, but they usually come in at the last minute. And then we also have just an open skating rink where CCMRD will rent skates. We have Mark Morris providing live music. I've been given the okay to do the beer garden out on the lake or somewhere in between the brewery and the lake. That would be part of the layout discussion. I have a couple of vendors on board now. I think we just need to talk about what kind of vendors won't compete with other things in the area or will enhance that, but the ones I have so far, I don't think are an issue. I'm hoping to get those fire pits that we had for Bighorn Sheep back, because they were pretty awesome and they really liked being here. And I think attendance here will be pretty good because we started pushing it pretty early. We may do one current ad, but I'm kind of feeling like this demographic is much more of an online social media demographic than a print demographic. And I've been doing a lot of sort of exploring of our print efforts and where that makes sense and for what events it makes sense versus other forms of advertising.
One idea, not to interrupt you, but like the high school, I bet would be interested, because I know last year they were all excited about it.
Like playing in the pond hockey tournament,
Yeah.
maybe cost prohibitive for them, but maybe not. It's certainly worth exploring.
Well,
No, that's a good idea.
It was good to know.
This
that
is-
that they can rent skates, because people call about that.
Absolutely. And the people that they can rent, obviously from CCMRD they're really nice, sharpened, modern skates. That
We could also do a fundraiser at high school to help with money. To get people more participating, some less high school community people.
right.
If there's a way around the money thing, I'm sure we can get donations. from-
Like, that's fun for like.
I disagree. I'll definitely look into that for sure. But that's kind of where we're at. I think we'll probably have one more planning meeting for this, that will include EMS, fire, police, make sure we're all on the same page with our safety plan and parking plan and anything else
Which is Winterfest again?
February 27th.
Then just let me know about the beer garden thing so we can get that going.
Well, I've got the application for it, so we've got the sponsor and everything's ready to go for all of that. We just, Craig and Sam, we just need to figure out where.
On the 25th February.
I would need to look, what day is it? Oh, that's a good call.
What's the question?
Well, I thought she was on the 25th.
I thought she was
We're on the inlet, so if there is a driving club, that would be good.
I am driving events.
If it's a weekend, then yeah.
I assumed there would be, but this is all just on the inlet and turn on
Right
Saturday.
now.
Yeah, it won't,
So-
it'll only enhance it if there's.
That's really going
I have 5 driving licenses. This upcoming ice driving season. I have 2 Audi, 2 Porsche, and 1 other that does like Rocky Mountain Red Line.
Okay, because I've got 3 weekends coming in and they're none of the like car specific ones.
Some of mine are like not like some of mine are weekdays, but I have a driving. I have a driving license.
Give you guys a calendar.
Yeah.
That would be great if everyone would get the calendar.
Yeah,
I would love that.
Can I be included on that?
Yes.
Okay.
But this won't affect that. That'll just be one more activity for people to watch.
Okay, that's what I think was having with like 15. I was like, oh god.
Okay. So that's pretty much it for Winterfest. Any questions on Winterfest? Okay. Just a couple other updates. I missed the amendment to the agenda. If there was any that would maybe include this or my backup conversation, I wasn't able to say you can table that. I don't know if anything was amended.
I didn't amend to include your report, because I didn't know if you wanted to share it, but if you would like to share it, or we can add it to the next agenda.
I might just give it out. That's like a super rough draft of my marketing recap and sort of goals and strategies for 2023 that we are asked to present to board of selectmen. Just my little piece of it. It's a shell. I would like some feedback because wasn't structured that way to keep that kind of report. I will from now on. I'm going to go today and pull all of our BPP meeting minutes where I give a report, just so I know I'm not missing anything from my end that I reported on, talked about, was involved in, etc. This doesn't include that, but I just love feedback and I'll send it digitally too, because I know some people like paper. Yes.
One thing, not to interrupt you, but like where this came from is in the code, we're supposed to send it out to the business owners.
Oh, okay.
And we can email it, I can get, you know.
I don't know.
Well, let's wait till it's a.
Let's get it in
there.
But yeah, and it says in big letters, draft. I also have worked on a big 2023 marketing strategy, not to necessarily go to the selectmen. But if you want a copy, this is also a work in progress. I'd like feedback on it as well. You can take one of those and I'll email it out. So those are those 2 things. And then I just want to give an update on social media and our website. The website is having some issues. The formatting is goofy. Businesses keep disappearing when I add in them or save them. I just got an email during this meeting from Kyle, who's more than willing to help me figure it out today or tomorrow. So if you look at it and it looks really weird, that's fine. I do not know. I spent like 2 hours yesterday trying to self-teach myself because I learn best when I figure it out myself. But it is above. I did not create that website. It's based on a WordPress design. It shouldn't be that hard. I understand WordPress, but there's some nuances to this I just don't know. So I just need a final tutorial, and it's basically just layouts for the businesses and where they're located and how they're alphabetized and how they're saved with their pictures and their content.
Can we
And-
get rid of the old businesses that are gone?
That is good.
Okay,
Those
good.
are gone. But there's big holes. There's big holes where they used to be, so it looks really weird. Like, I don't want it to look like we just got robbed of
Yeah.
this many businesses in
Well,
town.
you can talk with him today.
But that's what it looks like. Still working on the setup of the Georgetown TikTok account, so stay tuned for that. Specific Georgetown TikTok account. Instagram. Somebody assured me they could restore our old Instagram account. I'm gonna give them like 2 more days to try it. If not, we've really got to start, and I just posted to our current Instagram. We've got to start making that really robust, because we have 250 followers on that Instagram account. We had 6,000 on the old one. It's a major bummer, the way that all played out, and I'm trying, but eventually we're gonna have to just cut our losses with it and just entirely move on with the new one. Facebook, on the other hand, is completely thriving. We had 11,766 views in the last 27 days, which is up 34% over the previous period. We also had 2,255 engagements, so somebody shared it, somebody commented on it. That's a 54% increase, so we're definitely doing what we need to do with Facebook, which obviously because I'm old, more my forte, but Instagram, Snap, TikTok are all super important, so I'm trying to learn how to get those up, and that's kind of in a goals for 2023 from my end. The other two events, just so everybody's aware that I'm working on a Slacker that has been turned over to CCMRD for this year. Beth Luther will not be running Slacker, which is new, and provides us with a lot more involvement, input, and CCMRD wants to work with me, with the town, with BBC, whomever they need to make sure that this Slacker really benefits us in a way that it potentially hasn't in the past. And then there's the triathlon, which is also a partnership with CCMRD. That's the 4th of July morning triathlon. Love to have the hotel involved with that. They're trying to grow that. We ended up with about 70 participants, which was super unexpected. They'd like to see more like 300, which we think we can get. Frisco does the same thing, and they saw it every year with a 500 cap. So those are two like out there events, but because they're partnerships and take a lot of advertising that are for sure. I mean, everything's being worked on in advance of the moment, but those are two major undertakings that are happening.
So a quick question now, like where the hotel can help, we could put those on our sites too then, right?
Absolutely.
Because, okay.
You can put anything on your site you want, so feel free to communicate.
I don't know if there's any kind of licensing or something.
I don't think so. I mean, there's no reason they can't promote town events or, I mean, you're part of the town, so. Yeah, I check the website too.
Yeah.
The events part of the website is fine. So the events calendar is great, but if you want to pull from that events calendar, you can certainly do that as well. It's not everything is on there yet. We had some TBDs on dates, but I think we're getting close, but look month to month for sure. And I can send them to you.
And I'll just check with Wyndham to make sure they don't have any fishy things going on. I'm sure Brittany's fine with it.
I don't mean to cut you off, but we're
Yeah,
running into, we're gonna run.
I did talk as fast as I can.
I apologize profusely, but we have 37 minutes. Do you have anything else?
No.
Okay, awesome. Thank you very much. Rick, we have 37 minutes and we got to get through a lot of things.
So roads are still delayed because of issues with fiber optic lines and so forth. It's concrete. They're not going to do one section at a time. We can do it all together, and that just kind of put a hamper on everything. But they are still going to be done. 22nd Street Bridge was supposed to be done. They promised that it would be done before the new year. It did not happen. But we didn't believe it was going to happen either. But it's still, we budgeted towards that. We looked you in the eye, like this has to happen, and it did happen. So these are still issues that we're trying to resolve. I got to a bad ski accident, and so I'm struggling. But hopefully, they said it will only take 2 to 3 weeks to kind of feel mostly better. It's just a lot of internal bruising right now. And that's what you do when you're a dad and your son loses his goggles at the top of Loveland and it's a whiteout and you give him your goggles. That's what you do. So he's fine. I didn't make it down. But anyways, I think Excel has been working on replacing some of the lights. You might have seen them on Argentine.
Yep.
They are aware of the one that Gary and I have talked multiple times about that is not working right near Helia's kind of area. I think that's where it's at.
It's the other one right down where the coffee and tea shop is.
Yeah, so that's out. Even the Christmas lights, we're not working on that pole either. CDOT is aware that there's some things that they're gonna have to go in and replace. It's not just changing a bulb anymore. Excel is still working with the town to resolve issues with the decommissioning process. And so we're still working on a lot of things. Part of it is a narrative that we do not agree on. They say they have no responsibility and we say, yes, you do. This has to be all part of a watershed protection permit, which they did not do, they bypassed. And we are forcing them to do it. They're claiming FERC authority gets them around any local permits. However, in all of the documents that I read, that is not the case. It says this does not bypass local, tribal, or whatever permits that are required. So we are still trying to work through these things. That has a lot of, my focus is on water quality for that specific issue, because it's part of our watershed, 5 miles within our water where we get water and it goes right into the lake. Sediment is getting into the lake and it is negatively impacting our water facility, and it shuts down every time. This summer when it had hard rains, the sediment from the forebay is going right into it. But there's other issues. You have hydrology issues because the water levels are higher now than they have ever been, because water is redirected that used to go down the penstock into the museums. That water is redirected back into the creek, and so it's higher levels, which we've never had in 100 years. The bridges on Rockford Trail are being affected. So water is constantly splashing, which it used to only splash on high water, rain off and things like that, or spring runoffs. But now it is a daily occurrence. So ice in the creek we've had to blast it several times because right at House and 8th or 9th, the bridge that's right there, near Lynette's house. I mean, the ice is already touching her bridge, her foundation, and there's a gas line right at the bridge. And so we're being very aware of that, trying to monitor that and keep it down as much as we can. Fire department's aware, they've helped us blast it. But these are hydrology issues that are affecting now of all of Georgetown. And this museum is another impact, what's going to happen. Excel would love to just get rid of it, demolish it, and it's such a small blip on their system that they don't care. But they're doing their due diligence too, to see that does Georgetown care, does it nonprofit care, could we pass it to them so that they can cherish and continue the same context. So those things are, again, mine's just the water quality. There's all these other factors in play, but we are in much discussions and things like that, where it's not just me, we have multiple attorneys involved and everything else too. So they're being addressed. It's just big entities are very slow moving at this point. But one thing that we did come to an agreement on is Excel is going to replace our filter guts that have been destroyed. That's an $18,000 filter. They did agree to replace that. So that was actually yesterday. So that's a good sign.
Congratulations.
Yeah. We are still, our snow equipment, some of it was down, it's been repaired so that we can continue to snow plow and things like that. Roads are still issues, and we're still that's a high priority for us, even for this year. Coming up is fixing drainage problems, such as 8th Street near Dick Collins. That's a massive issue that we're trying to resolve. So that's just a small thing, I know you said time limit too.
Sorry. Thank you.
Well,
Nothing else that,
those are big rocks.
No earth shattering.
nothing, or, yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Thank you, and we hope you feel better.
Thanks.
Well, we'll get you.
Too hard.
And then, we do have a code enforcement officer, and so I know Craig's gonna bring us some stuff in a minute. That's not something I deal with. And I don't go around looking for things to change unless it comes up and then we have to address this kind of thing. But, I look forward to, Tim's doing a phenomenal job of addressing things that haven't been addressed in a long time. So some of them will be related to Bighorn Crossing, well, a lot of them are. I'm trying to address out of compliance things, dumpsters, signage. He's looking at a lot of things, so we do have him staying busy. Any questions?
Any questions, guys? All right,
I don't have any questions. I'd like to say thank you and give kudos to all the town crews for putting up all the lights and Kevin did a great job on the roundabout. Yeah.
See, that was more of like, I don't know about that. And he did, I mean, he had this great idea to put the balls and everything, and it turned out great.
the roundabout was really good.
Yes, I'm excited about that too.
All righty, next item on the agenda. I think it's been on the agenda a lot. Business Promotion Commission Chairman appointment.
Ooh.
Skip the mission.
So are we actually doing this today?
Sure, let's do it.
Okay. I nominate Kevin Hart to be the chair of Business Promotions.
I second. I could second, that's okay.
All in favor? Aye.
Mary motion in second.
No,
I made the motion.
And I think Craig seconded it.
All abstain.
Okay.
Did you really?
Paul and Kevin, yes,
Yeah.
yeah, Paul and Kevin abstain.
Yes.
Congratulations. Let's, I will debrief you this week, now that things were all breaking.
Yeah, sounds good.
Or maybe we'll do it like lunch next week or
That's
something.
fine.
We'll get
She really wants to do it.
So I'll finish out this meeting and then next meeting
Sounds good.
you'll take over and then you can do your thing from there.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you for taking that on.
Sure.
All right. What?
Well, I abstained because we're married, but I would have voted no.
All right. It's been great. Discussion on creating a workforce support commission aligned with lodging tax implementation. I turn that over to you.
Okay, but do you want to address the mission statement and just?
I will, because that's, I've been tabling it. I'm not gonna table this time. What I will say is, like Jen, I'm gonna go back to BPC minutes. I think for the last year and just see what themes rise to the top. And then I'll incorporate those themes into the mission statement. And of course, I'll put that before this group and strike things, add things, tweak things until we're all happy. But I felt like, our discussions from the last year, that's where our heads are at. And so those are the things that we should probably be focusing on. I don't think there'll be any surprises. Visitor, experience would be one of those that's going to rise to the top of this workgate, for instance. So I have work to do, but I decided that I was going to focus all of my time that I had on wayfinding this time. But I do have an approach for mission statements, though, so that's it.
And I think when we do that, that'll help with the strategy for 2023 and getting that all aligned with the mission statement.
Yeah.
So that's all.
I wish that I wish I would have gotten to this first, but for many, many reasons, personal and professional, it just didn't happen. But you're absolutely right, Jen. All of our actions will map to the mission statement. Is that critical?
And mine's not in any way a finished product, so we can always circle back. It's just a draft.
Awesome.
That's it.
I did not mean to skip that. My apologies.
No, it's fine. It's all good. We've been skipping it, so I can see why you would.
You want it on next month's agenda?
Yeah, I think I'll have something.
It might be his first official act.
And
Ooh.
I've got a couple of those rough drafts that you,
Yeah.
I don't know if you want those.
Yes, if they're handy, send them back to me, because they're not gonna be way off the mark.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now, discussion on workforce support commission aligned with the lodging tax implementation.
So Amanda, Rick and I had a brief discussion and we thought it best to bring it to business promotions. Basically, I kind of outlined some of this. I don't think I made enough copies, so we might have to share the sheet. As you know, the lodging tax was passed. The town anticipates gaining approximately $200,000 in revenue per year. 50% of that, the funds are in the BPC budget. And 50% of the funds are other to be determined that fall into compliance with the lodging tax law or ballot. To be ahead of the curve as opposed to not, I thought that business promotions might want to have some kind of a say in putting together yet a new commission to be able to help the town, assist the town in identifying the needs of what those programs might be that fall into that funding, and then making recommendations to the board, for that money to be dispensed. So the top half of this section is really, I just broke down the lodging tax, what was included in the lodging tax, the different bullets, and then just off the top of my head to get thoughts going. And that's all this is right now, is just to get it out there. If you feel that business promotions should have a piece of this, some considerations that I think would be valuable for us to help implement this commission. I think it needs to be written in town code, just as BPC is in town code, Parks and Rec, and to establish that commission. Because the funding is somewhat shared, with the lodging tax, and it's all to enhance our business opportunities. I thought BPC might want to have a rep on that commission. I think the Board of Selectmen should also be not necessarily the same rep that's on BPC, but and then however many members that we feel need to be on that commission. And then just, again, determining the mission and what that would be. I'm sure there's more things, that we could start with here. So this is just to get this topic out to you. Perhaps we can look at this again next month, digest this, put some thoughts to it, and let's move. So when this money starts coming in, we as a town, we have June as our target date as to when this, is really going to take off. And we've also, made that magic month as far as the funds and the transition that we're talking about for the events and marketing manager position. And we're going to have, $100,000 and another $100,000, and this is going to continue to grow. I could see from what our conversation was earlier with the signage that falls into what, some of this money may go towards. So just think about it.
Sorry.
This is not meant to be all inclusive at all. So if we can just put it on the agenda for next month and go from there.
On the agenda for next month, any other discussion points on this? Alrighty. The last thing that we added onto the agenda, we had a business owner that wrote a couple people. I was one of the people, since I'm the chair of the commission, in regards to basically a complaint that was lodged against their business for a sign that violated sign code, which I believe was in lit open sign that prompted the complaint. And the business owner is rightfully frustrated over, or I don't say rightfully, that's not my place to say, but frustrated because they feel like there is not enough support for 6th Street, especially in the off season. I can read the entire letter. I don't know if that would be appropriate for the record, but there was some ideas that were shared in the letter to enhance the visitor experience on 6th Street in particular. And some incentivization for downtown businesses to survive the off season. And those suggestions included lowering water bills for commercial operations or restaurants, Lowering restaurant sales tax seasonally as the state did in July, August, and September, allowing of open lit signs, direct promotions to market downtown specifically to promote our important assets. Allowing for the 6th Street pedestrian closure during the summer months, opening Guanella Pass year round, barely enforce existing ordinances because we all benefit from them and should share the cost burden. And an update of ordinances that are out of step with the post-COVID business environment.
Can you forward that letter at least to the commission so that we can, so that you don't have to read the whole
Yes,
thing
I
into the record? Please.
Can I give it to you, Jen, and you forward it
Yeah.
to everybody? Okay. So, as you know, we had a big discussion about wayfinding. I don't know what so that part of this is a code issue. There is town code that exists. And I'm not sure what the roots of that code are, as far as like, some of the piece that I'll address specifically is the lit open sign. Like, is that something that could be revised in town code? Is that something that's a DRC issue? Like, where does this originate from? And and is this something that is the Business Promotions Commission to enhance the 6th Street? Jesus. Just it's in it's in the code, but is there something that, what would be our stance to support our 6th Street businesses? What do we do as a commission to ensure that we're acting with due diligence to give the 6th Street Historic District its support in the winter?
I think it's kind of funky. I mean, and I appreciate Dana writing the letter, because I read it even when I was at home, hurt. And it's not pointed and accusatory, it's just stating facts, and I really greatly appreciate the way the letter was written. I think it addresses the issue that we're all looking at, is we're a historic town. We have done things a certain way for a long time, but at the same time, it is conflicting businesses that are wanting to stay open at night and having signs that we're not allowed at one time, if we're a specific district, or are allowed in other places within Georgetown. So it's like you see one street that's being singled out that can't do certain things, but they are certain practices that are allowed other places. I think that's where the big issue is coming in right now. Like, how do you compete with that when other places are allowed to do that?
Isn't zoning a normal thing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is this a neon? Are we talking neon open signs
Yes.
They don't make me.
Well, not neon, but like.
or whatever? Fake neon-ish.
Illuminated, it was flashing.
It's funny. I've worked in very successful restaurants, so you could barely see the sign for them. And the fact that you have an open sign that's like that makes me think that I'm personally against them. So whatever. That's my I'm just against them.
Well, I think,
I don't think they're.
and I'm not gonna speak specifically about the letter, I think Dana articulates it fairly well, but
I haven't read it. It didn't go to the full commission.
Pardon?
It didn't go to the full commission.
I just forwarded it.
I don't know. So we should have been able to read it before the meeting.
I take responsibility for that. I
Thank
wanted to,
Well, it went to two people rather than going to the meeting.
for sure.
And it's definitely an issue that we're discussing as a commission. So the person who wrote it, or it should have been immediately forwarded to the
we
commission.
went to the Board of Selectmen, so.
Okay, before discussing it as a commission.
I take responsibility for not sharing it ahead of time. I wasn't sure if that was appropriate. And so that was my fault, and I take responsibility for that. I sent it to Jen, so you guys can read it.
Thank you.
The bullet points that I highlighted though are the piece that the lit open sign aside, there are some other things on this that I think as a commission, we do need to think about. And it's not the first time we've had a business owner say 6th Street is consistently not supported. And that we went through this with the infamous Lights Across 6th Street debate that was really, really hot and really contentious, and became kind of a sticking point for business owners that came to the commission and felt like, why can't we get downtown lit up? Why is this so difficult? And, ultimately nothing ever came of it. And so I think, you were involved in the lights, the light gate 2019 or whatever. So I think it's not the first time we've had a business owner talk to us as a commission about what we can do, so that regardless of the specific violation or ordinance that triggered it, is it worth us having a continued conversation about what to do about enhancing the Sixth Street experience in
I have
the
an idea.
season?
I know you guys, I'm not, have a contest of which business can be open the most hours.
It's funny.
I know that is that's a issue, and I know that we run into situations where we have businesses that are closed.
It goes
all
to the heart of the issue. In that it's a chicken and egg question. And frankly, goes to a couple other agenda items. I think there needs to be a much broader conversation about what the role of this organization is in anything. This organization is actually, I mean, it's very vaguely charged in the code with promoting business within the town of Georgetown. And writing a budget, and that's it. There's, and I know it goes to the conversation about mission statement, but we're not empowered. Doesn't even say we're supposed to have that. There's really no charter created by law for this organization to proceed with. And so the question would be, I don't even know that this doesn't even rise to the level of being in the conversation piece with BTC, much less the other conversations, directional signage, that we're not charged with that. We're not charged with any broad umbrella that would cover that. So that's where the conversation I think needs to start, is the organizationally. I had this question for Amanda, like, what's the job? I don't even know if it was in BPC's purview to, talk about the sales tax increase and the lodging tax. That's the starting point for the conversation. Then we can get down. Right? Was that actually, I mean, again, we need to have a broader conversation about what the role of the organization is. That will help guide our actions during every meeting. It'll help guide our use of new and existing funding. And I think if we suggest that it include things like a conversation about sign code, things like that, then great. I don't even know that it qualifies at this point, though, quite honestly. I think the Board of Selectmen is the only entity where this topic or any of these topics that were suggested in this email cleanly fall into a jurisdictional area, unless we're specifically asked by the Board of Selectmen to consider a specific thing.
Traditionally, we've been doing this thing. So you're the one changing the rules at the moment.
No,
You're the one saying specifically how we've been asked to do this, but we've been doing this for years. So this is the way we operate at the moment. If we want to change the way our direction goes, that's something to look at for the future.
Right. It was make a suggestion.
Let me come
We've
back
always
to
made
the,
suggestions.
so
In the letter
as
to
a
people on this commission.
one of the things, I definitely think that there is a scope of purview that needs to be identified. In this instance, though, BPC does take a lot of heat for what happens on Sixth Street.
Mhm.
BPC takes a lot of heat for what happens in town in general.
Mhm.
And there's the business owners and operators and managers of the community, they expect us to market, promote, invent, and make town a welcoming place. And sometimes that responsibility is broader than anything that we can define in a single meeting, because there's also a burden of responsibility that falls onto owners to be open, to have consistent hours, to have storefronts that are accessible, that their sidewalks are shoveled, 100%. And we've had this back and forth, but it comes back to the heart of the issue. This is not the first time the business owner has reached out to the commission or myself as the chair, and again, my fault for not sending this letter out to you guys sooner, and said, what are you guys doing to fix the problem? Because that is the role that people view us to have. So the perception. So if that is the perception, then what do we do to support the broader economic picture as we go into winter? And that's the only reason the conversation hit the agenda, was because I think it's important, as no matter what happens to the commission and members, that people, when these people come to us, I as the chair, or you as the chair moving forward, don't just say, so I don't have to tell you, good luck. I think that would make me irresponsible.
I think that if a letter comes and it says commission for you, if it says commission, if it's just going to use not you, me as a friend, but it says promotions commission, it is therefore a public letter.
It did not specify one way or another. It just said, I sent this to town and was forwarded to me.
To back this up, though, I think this commission is just as much as Parks and Rec or any of the other commissions that operate in this town are here to facilitate our town staff and the Board of Selectmen in making these decisions. If we want to pile all of this on this one man and this clerk and our town we don't have the staff for that. We know that. We're little Georgetown and we're always going to be in that sense. And so we have a lot of power here to make those recommendations and to have 8 or 9 people discuss these options and go forward with that. So I do think that we're here to operate, even though it may not be written in our bylaws because we don't have bylaws. And I give you that. These town codes were written back when this town was not even what we are today. And that might only be 10 or 20 years ago. We have changed and we need to step up. So yes, it would have been nice to be able to see the letter to know what the hell we're talking about right now. We didn't. This too can go on our next meeting, but I think we have a strong role in making those recommendations. We're the voice of every business, not only on 6th Street. I always cringe when we always say 6th Street, because I think there's so many other businesses, you know, a couple of them are represented right here.
Well, just like wayfinding, 6th Street that way, we do a lot of things for 6th Street.
Yeah.
Definitely they fall into BPC.
So, yeah, so when we say the word, when I hear this thing that, you know, the town's letting us down on 6th Street, I'm like, I think they can do a lot more for us down here than they do on the roundabout.
Sure.
And so that's, so I do think we need another sign down there, like the one at 6th and Argentine to service those businesses. So I think 6th Street gets a lot of attention. Maybe not a lot, but a lot.
Got together just a couple of months ago to come up with some ordinance changes and presented it to the board. So in this instance, maybe it's DRC and BPC, you know, and EIEIO. Let's get all the alphabet together.
Yeah. There are multiple stakeholders in some of these bigger projects.
Especially opening Manila Pass, how far up do we go? It's a county road, it's not a road. How does wildlife feel about it? How does the ptarmigan, you know, we have a ptarmigan population up there that's very sensitive. We also have avalanche. How does Alpine Rescue feel about it? Because we have avalanche zones up there, and if people are backcountry skiing there from our side, how is that affected? These are larger conversations than us on that one. I feel, you know, I'm just, how does HDPLC feel about? Well, mostly it's wildlife. It would involve wildlife. It would, I would think. And anyway, Alpine Rescue. As far as lighting, that's DRC.
But it isn't just DRC. When you're talking that a business, especially a new business.
Yeah.
I haven't even seen the letter, so I don't even know what position she's taking on this.
Yeah, that's my
But here, how are you going to know that something might be open if you're walking down the street? My God, Kevin just pointed out a sign in the packet that he gave us. What good does this sign do for the people coming down from the Loop Railroad? You know, one of the trees are probably blocking half of them. You know, there's nothing on the side of it. What, you know, So
how is a lighted, an interiorly lighted open sign as opposed to an open sign that has a different light facing it, or a down light onto the street, or bright business? How does that affect?
Code doesn't allow you to do any of that,
Well, that is this discussion.
internally or externally lit sign. So it literally, you can't have any form of light on a sign, on a building.
I see signs on the shingle signs on buildings.
It's 7 days.
during the holiday season, from another merchant on 6th Street who was getting some pushback on some holiday lights that she had in her window.
Oh, I have had pushback, having my lights on the interior of my building on overnight, which is allowed.
So,
And I've been processed by the police for that, or discussed with the police for that. So I understand.
he needs to have a say in it.
We can, because I mean, at the end of the day, with, you know, a cohesive recommendation. We can go, we do carry that.
Mhm.
That clout to go to the Board of Selectmen and say, you know, our stakeholders are frustrated by this aspect of the code.
Let's read.
Are you willing to revisit the code? And that's the bottom line.
Mhm.
And I didn't start this for us to take stances on individual businesses, right or wrong, what they're doing. It was meant to be a broader discussion for us to, and again, I take responsibility for not getting it out to you in front of.
It's not that, it's that I don't think that you can have the expectation that you're writing a letter to individuals if you're saying something about the commission. That's my point there.
Fair. End of the day, though, it is still a 6th Street problem. It's a problem that I think we need to undertake. Whether anything comes of it, that's a separate outcome. But it would be a bad look for us to just walk away from that and just say, figure it out. It's not really our problem.
Well, and
Something with the business license renewal, if I could just say it really quick. They pay the brick and mortars pay $180 just to go to business promotions. So on their perspective, they kind of are looking at you guys, you know what I mean?
yeah, yes.
I've been on the commission for
And you are allowed.
6 years.
Like your business license.
And as the chair for the last couple of years, it is not unusual for people to hunt me down, to complain about things to me. People will walk into the restaurant. This is my favorite part. No, it's fine. They will come into the restaurant to yell at me about something and not yell.
It's harder to find, so.
Yes.
It feels like, yeah.
It's not yelling, you know what, and that's a responsibility that I have not taken lightly. And that's just the way it goes, and it's fine when people are frustrated, and sometimes they just want a bitch, and I'm like, okay, you good? And other times it's stuff that we undertake, and so, as I finish the last 3 minutes of my chairmanship here. I think we've done a lot of good stuff, and I think we need to continue these conversations though, because they're really important. And I appreciate all of you taking it on.
So my other question is, because I am bothered, even though the zoning is a real thing. We see banners permanently on certain buildings down in the Gateway project.
Mhm.
We do see those lighted open signs like on nail salons
I have one.
down there.
We have a small lot.
You've got one,
What,
Cabin Creek.
an open sign?
Yep.
That's allowed.
Yeah, no, I know.
We're in town next.
Yeah.
The historic business.
We can have A-frames without the insurance.
But you can take a light and shine it
You can
on.
try it on your business
Yeah.
license. It's in the sign permit.
So it says internally or externally lit signs. Just.
I thought that was.
No, no.
Yeah. We have 2 minutes.
And then we can study it better.
Pardon?
We can study it better.
Exactly.
Maybe we could decide on something that is appropriate, but isn't, never mind.
No, that's the point. Is there an in-between to support this, specific? Unfortunately, we've got some vacancies on the historic district. I won't say 6th Street. We've got vacancies right now in some businesses. We have another business closing this end of the week, right?
But this.
Which business is
Buffalo
that?
Rose and
Buffalo
Berry.
Rose Emporium's closing. So,
This takes 2 years to. Never mind.
Buffalo
No,
Rose
I-
Emporium.
It's hard.
I get it.
Do you want to do
But-
that?
I'll look back to personally because we had the same ordinance where you couldn't have the neonish signs that say open in this neighborhood, or it was like a small city that we had. And what did we do for a solution so that people could know that people were open? Because it was the same complaint.
It is a chicken and an egg problem.
Because one is not going to get you business necessarily, but people need to know that you're open as well.
All right.
I'm in that.
Minutes.
We approve the minutes from.
Second.
December meeting,
December 7th.
December 7th.
And a second.
Have a second.
Kevin seconded.
Not sure.
Oh,
Somebody seconded. All in favor?
I,
Aye.
may I ask you a question? Oh, go ahead.
No, you're good.
10 cents per bags. A lot of the small retails. We are exempt, correct?
Yes, it only
Because
is
we have-
like a big.
More than 3 stores, not based always. Okay.
Yeah.
Struggling.
We put one Family Dollar is responsible, and the only reason I can think Market might be Shell. They are responsible to do it at Circle K because they have more than 3 businesses in the area national. But we have a little sign, and then I looked at it's buried. You can't find it anywhere. And then I finally found it this morning. So we're good. I owe you guys 30 cents. Yeah, right. Well, we have paper bags anyway, but it's just that. Ugh.
Market doesn't know, the market was really struggling, but Family Dollar didn't charge me yesterday, because she's like, they couldn't figure out how to do it without taxing it. And so
Yeah,
they didn't charge me for that.
like in your POS system, the non-taxi
Yeah.
thing, yeah, that's a bitch. But that might be something, the reason I brought it up in here is it might be something that we can send out in our little newsletter or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we went through that confusion and then I was like, this doesn't seem right. And then I looked the full, and you can't even see it in the beginning pages of the law. 'Cause I
Yeah.
read the law and then I found it deeper somewhere.
I thought we had to do it at the restaurant.
I'll send out.
I was
emails
worried
to
it was gonna
businesses.
be, we were gonna have to
Or
go.
put it in my newsletter too, and you can put it in there.
Yeah.
She's gonna stay on the board or stand out.
Cheers, right?
Yes, I'm staying.
We always have wine and cheese somewhere though. Let's do that.
At the old school. At the old
Uh-huh,
school.
we do the old school.
Thank you guys.
Wine.
Done.
I'm going to. And second.
Aye.
Aye. Thanks, guys.
No, I was. I just.
Five seconds.
Oh, those are-